This podcast and every other podcast that I make is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. They get episodes of this particular show early and ad-free, as well as totally unedited cuts if we have edits, and a bunch of other cool bonus content. So if you want to support this very independent show that runs entirely without sponsorships, make sure you check us out on Patreon. GDC. We both just came back from GDC. I find it so funny that I spent more time at GDC with you than I did with most people, even though I talk to you for an hour every week.
I'm just good company. I'm
good company. Yeah, just too addictive, you know? You got to get more at Mike Biffle.
Yeah. I respect that. What was your GDC like? Were you... what was GDC like, I guess, generally?
So obviously I was still working, which is the big thing. Is I don't take time off work when I do stuff like that. So I was still working in San Francisco. So I'm still working 9 to 6 every day.
Oh, you were doing work hours?
Regular work hours, yep. And then during my lunch break, a couple of days I had meetings. Mostly I went to the gym. So yeah, I got to go to GDC obviously on Tuesday. I had tech rehearsals for the award show. Which again, those people, I've said this to you, I think. GDC is so well run, like the awards. It's my second time doing something for the award show because the first time was I presented the Ambassador Award to Steve Spawn. They're so organized. Like I've done many an award show and most of them have been chaotic. Like I hosted the South by Southwest Gaming Awards a few years back and we had hot mics when we left the stage like that. They play the wrong trailer, the wrong package for a category. Like that was such a mess and they were so panicked about it. The GDC Awards, I mean, they've been doing it for a long time, obviously, but it was just so smooth and they were so easy to work with and so great. And like I mentioned, didn't have any input on my script. Like they read over it, obviously, but they let me say whatever I wanted to and let me pick whatever guest presenters I wanted. They were awesome. So yeah, I had a tech rehearsal and then obviously the awards, which went well. My whole thing, I have a vlog about this, but was that I didn't want to speak too much. Let other people have the opportunity to speak. I think Sven gave some really good anecdotes. Obviously, Baldur's Gate 3 won a whole bunch of stuff. This is the Game Developers Choice Awards, everybody, just in case you missed that. Baldur's Gate 3 won, Zelda won, Vanba won, which I really need to play. It was nominated for almost everything in IGF, and it won an award. I think it was maybe art that it won. Hi-Fi Rush won music. So some very good winners as well. But yeah, the awards were very fun for me, very easy to do. I don't get nervous in front of crowds at all. So that kind of thing is always just like talking to a room of people I sort of mostly know anyway. And then I entertained the idea of going out afterwards and ended up going to sleep early again anyway. But yeah, mostly like I use that time in San Francisco to go see friends. But yeah, for the most part, it's like I was just working my regular job. So I assume that it's very different for you, Mike Biffle. What's your GDC like?
Well, I very much built my entire trip around hanging out with you, knackered in the evening.
Again, which we did do.
That's the core.
Repeatedly.
That's the hub I build it around. Repeatedly, absolutely.
Did we have dinner together twice? We did, right? It's just me, Rahul, and your team.
That's true, yeah. Which they loved you guys, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I also always love that. I'm happy to do it. Yeah. They're great.
They had a great time with you guys. It was great. No, it was, so it was, for me, actually, this is something, Alexander, my colleague, kind of, I think he nailed it. He basically described this year's GDC for us as like a filler episode. Like we're definitely at a point kind of company-wise where we're in the middle of some things and we're kind of figuring some stuff out. But it was good. It was a fun trip. I definitely took the opportunity to see a lot of like older friends, which is great.
That was my biggest thing, is it was seeing older friends.
Yeah.
For the most part, it was actually very nice. I think especially like we've spoken about it on the show, but all of the layoffs and everything this year, it's been really sad. And it's just nice to talk to people about it, you know, like obviously I have all these colleagues here in LA, but LA is such a big city. I never see any of them. And we don't use meeting time to talk about that kind of stuff because you don't want
100%.
to. Like when we have a meeting on the day they happened, we'd talk about it. But otherwise, like you don't really want to talk about it during work because then it makes work harder. So it was really nice to just chat to people in person about like what's going on with the industry and how people are doing. And like, I don't know, it still, despite the crappy circumstances, there was just a very nice sense of community that I think I kind of needed. It was very
That surprised me because I got the same vibes, and like because Dice was quite doom and gloom.
yeah.
Like Dice definitely had a cloud hanging over it, and I think GDC there was more of an optimism, which is cool. I hope that pans out. I hope that plays out well. It was really cool. One of the things I try and do at GDC each year is I just did a bunch of coffees with like folks who are just like starting out, like indies who are there with like early games or whatever, and kind of checking in with them, and partially to kind of give any advice I can, but also honestly just so I can see how things are going at that end of the industry.
So what's your perspective on that, if you're willing to share?
Well, it seemed optimistic. Like definitely there are, pitching is always terrifying, especially when you're first starting out. There's definitely a thing when you're pitching. Your first few games is you just get rejected a lot. Like most things fail. Like our hit rate is, it's in the sub 10% range of like when we go out to do 10 pitches, we'll get one successful pitch, and when you're starting out, it's obviously much, much worse.
That's because you don't have the reputation.
Yeah, you've not got the reputation. You've not demonstrated your ability to ship. You've not.
You're a bigger risk.
You've not got an IP, or just lots of reasons you're a tougher investment. But even with that, like talking to like folks who are out there, like with their first game, people who may be still even students. In one case, one person I was talking to is half the team is still at school.
Love
like
that.
they are. I love that as well. I love that we are at that point as an industry. And those people are still there getting pitches. There's a lot of competition out there, it seems. But I'm excited that those pitches are still happening. I'm excited that publishers still seem to be signing projects. Definitely less than they were this time last year, but it doesn't. I was worried it was going to be a bit of a brick wall year. I was a bit worried it was going to be like literally everyone just slams the doors shut. Because those environments are fine for people like myself who are kind of established and kind of have relationships and have ways of kind of making it through those moments. But for new folks coming in, that can be absolutely nightmarish because just the wall comes up and you're kind of out in the cold. That doesn't seem to have happened, which is good. And I think we'll see. It's way too premature to say we're over the worst of it, but it felt like things were moving, which is good.
That's great. I wanted to shout this out. I've not yet watched it, and I would have to figure out exactly what channel it's on. But Danny O'Dwyer.
Yeah, he did that thing on the situation currently, yeah. Because they're doing a game, right?
Yes. So basically, so anyone who doesn't know, No Clip Docs is Danny O'Dwyer's, it's crowdfunded, it's Patreon supported video game documentary.
Surely the Venn diagram of No Clip and us is a circle, right? Like I would hope. If you're watching this and you don't know what we're talking about, you're about to discover
I made one with him, and I think that maybe I'm one of the only guests to have ever done that. I did the Dream Daddy documentary for No Clip. It was actually in the period after I had left IGN and I was waiting for my visa to join Rooster Teeth. I went and made a documentary for Danny. So the Dream Daddy, because Aaron Hansen of the Game Grumps is one of my best friends. So we met and went and made a documentary about their game. They've maybe had other people do it and I just didn't see it, but I did do that. So I would imagine, it's basically a circle.
The audience, I feel like there's overlap.
We're the same guy. Still, yeah, for sure.
We're the same.
So No Clip Crew, which, if we're not, go check out No Clip. Fantastic. What Danny does is amazing. It's like
amazing stuff.
Yeah, he's the best at it, and I love watching every single one of them. I highly recommend. I don't watch YouTube videos, but I'll always watch a No Clip. So No Clip Crew is their second channel, which is for like not documentaries. And they made a video that went up 2 weeks ago. It's called 2023 was a terrible year to look for a publisher, and 2024 is worse. So I believe that is a like vloggy type documentary about them trying to find a publisher. Haven't watched it yet. It's 30 minutes. I was thinking about watching it on stream actually, just because it seems like such an interesting thing to talk about. But like the idea that somebody from the inside, I guess he probably had to skirt a bunch of NDAs, was like actually documenting that process is so exciting to me, because it's something that most people like can't comprehend at all. It's like you have this cool idea, you think it's the best idea ever. How do you get anyone to even take it? Very, very similar with script writing, screenplays. It's the same thing. Like 1,000 people say no, one says yes, and your whole life is different.
I've not seen Danny's thing yet, but I've heard enough people who would know say it's an excellent
also
depiction
why
of the
I'm
process.
vouching for it.
So that's really cool.
Vouching via other people I trust vouching for it.
Exactly, yeah. Like,
What a great review
ultimately
we're giving.
personally ignorant, but yeah. I do need to watch it. The problem with Danny's stuff, I've known him since like he was when he was at GameSpot back in London, and we would go for burgers and stuff. So I've known him literally for like a decade. So it's awesome watching. I don't watch a lot of his stuff because I find it massively triggering. Same
Yeah,
reason I
fair
didn't watch
enough.
the Double Fine documentary, just because it's like these are the exact kind of challenges and problems that I find myself like in like on a daily basis. So
I would say
I'm very selective
I watched less
with what I
since I
watch.
started working in AAA. I haven't seen the Double Fine documentary. But I
It's
have
great. It's
heard things
brilliant,
about
but
that being like
terrifying.
very honest.
Yes,
Like,
profoundly so, bravely so. I think
well, yeah,
genuinely
there
in a
was
lot of
somebody
ways.
whose like reputation got a little bit hurt by it, because they portrayed. I don't know anything about what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to like
Mm,
slyly omit a name. I don't fucking know who it is. Um,
mm.
that they it reflected so poorly on them because of the honesty or something like that, which was like, I respect the hell out of that. Like, it's very, very
I think
cool. And
it's yeah.
I love Psychonauts and I love Tim. I'm such a big fan of Tim. I'm
Mm.
sure I've said this on the podcast before, but I had this moment once where I would say Tim and I are friends at this point, and I was talking to him at an E3, and people were stopping me and asking me to sign things. And I was like, this is Tim Schafer. I was like, what are you
Yeah.
fucking people doing? He's right here. Just like one of the coolest people on the
He's a
planet. Like,
legend,
yeah,
but
actual
he doesn't give
legend.
off that energy. I think you could genuinely walk past him at an event because he doesn't. There are that generation of developers who, frankly, could be walking around like rock stars. Some of them do. Some of them
No, he's
they
not
put
that
out. They're
guy.
very.
Yeah.
He's not that guy at all. I genuinely never. Yeah, never had an anything less than a lovely experience.
Well,
He was really
he's always
he's really cool. Like we went. Sorry, go on.
he's always been one of my favorites. And I finally at a dice was like, I'm gonna go fucking talk to Tim Schafer. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna have a conversation with him. And I had to like work myself up. But this is back when I was drinking and I was drunk. And I think I just went and ranted at him about Persona. And that's like maybe the only time in my whole career that I like woke up the next day and was like, oh my God, why did I do that? And then I
Mm.
apologized to him. Thankfully, Tim and I are still friends. I didn't fuck up that badly when I ranted at Tim Schafer about Persona 5.
That's a rite
Somehow.
of passage, though. Like embarrassing yourself after. That's why a lot of people just don't drink at events. I don't drink at events for that
I'm
very
not doing
reason.
it
Like
anymore.
because you have that experience like early on. No, he's great. Also, 10,000 points. Someone who remembers partners, and that goes a long way with me. There's people who you meet at these things who kind of are Carrie has to reintroduce herself to every
Yeah.
time. Tim always has been like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" to her, and been really friendly. So that genuinely like that goes a long way for me as well.
It's very
that's a nice energy to be putting out. It's very easy for people to just kind of ignore the
mhm.
partners and sideline them. Sure.
It's a very interesting thing that happened with me when I was just about to join Rooster Teeth or hadn't yet, and I went to a party at Boney Burns' house, who was the founder of Rooster Teeth, and I was dating Blaine
Mm.
at the time, who worked at Rooster Teeth, and Boney was introducing me to people, and never once said Blaine's girlfriend. He said, "This is Alanah Pearce.
Mm.
She works at IGN. She's hosting all of the E3 shows," and he just like introduced me as an individual person, and I was like, "That's so nice," because nobody does that. And I have the flip sometimes in the entertainment industry with Rahul, where people will meet us and I guess assume I'm like a failed actress or a model or something irrelevant to them and just not talk to
I
me
get the
anymore.
same thing. I get the same thing. People just look at me and go, "Model."
You
Yeah,
just look
that's
like a
exactly the same
model.
thing.
But it's like
I just
they
look. I
just
can't help it.
I think it's the blonde, I don't know, whatever, but
No, I get
they
it.
do not care about me at
I've
all.
introduced Rahul. I've introduced Rahul as Alana's boyfriend, though. I've 100% done that in the past. I'm sure
I'm sure it's his proud
it's the right way of doing
it's his
it. It's the right way of doing it.
proudest
I think,
achievement, I'm
yeah,
sure. But
absolutely.
I like people will treat me definitely like I'm irrelevant until maybe
Hmm.
occasionally, like Rahul always is like, she's a writer at PlayStation. That's cool. Like he
Yeah,
tries to mention it, and occasionally someone will be like, "Oh, video games? Interesting." Like an actor will like try and try and then assume I'm in control of casting.
It shouldn't be dependent on status. It should be the default. And
it's nasty.
Absolutely make a mental note on people. I want 100% judge people silently.
Oh, immediately.
Exactly how 100%. There are people who have ruined their reputation within like 2 minutes of meeting me.
Well,
100%.
I'm like that with people who won't make eye contact with me. So if like Rahul and I are both having a conversation with someone and they will only make eye contact with him, even if I ask the question and then they only look at him. I also like really look out for that in interviews back when I was like at IGN or I don't think I did one at Rooster Teeth. But I did a lot of interviews at IGN when we were hiring writers, and I was always like, if they don't look at the women, I'm just saying it's a red flag, because it does happen where I will ask a question and they will not look at me. They will reply to the man sitting next to me. I'm always like, it's not like I'd like not hire somebody from that, but I'm gonna fucking notice it. And it's always uncomfortable.
Literally, it's on my checklist for job interviews. Anyone who's watching this, whoever applies for a job,
look at the
when
women.
You're answering a question from the woman in the call, you better answer her question to her directly, because I will be spotting if you don't. Yeah, 100%.
It's very uncomfortable.
It's a very easy red flag to spot.
Totally.
For sure.
Yeah, but the thing about the entertainment industry events is like, I don't care that those people are treating me that way, so it's just interesting. Like I'm there and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not valuable to you, huh? Yeah, like I don't care. What do I care that you're not interested in me? They're mostly.
I stay out of the status rooms. I don't like those rooms.
Look, we mostly have a good time at that kind of stuff because Rahul, like one of the things that I love about him is like, despite the fact that he works in film, he's still such a big fanboy of people who make stuff, and he's still a fan of actors. So like. He ends up just being so excited. Like the time that Rahul loves Hayden Christensen and was like shocked to see him at this event that we went to.
I had like 3 conversations with Rahul about Hayden Christensen at GDC, so
he'll tell everybody, but
he loves those stories.
Yeah, but I think I actually spoke to you about Hayden Christensen as well. Here we are.
But I made sure I looked at him when you were telling me the story.
Which is fair in this case. 100%. He's a huge fan.
Yeah.
And I guess it was like Rahul was about to do an interview, and then he went, that's Hayden Christensen, to Hayden Christensen. And Hayden Christensen went, I know you. And Rahul said, no, you don't. And he said, you're the sheriff from Midnight Mass. And so that made Rahul's like, yeah, that Hayden Christensen knew who he was, just like blew his mind. So he has all these moments that are like that are really, really cool, that he's always very, very excited. And it's fun to be there for that energy, regardless of like me not really, I don't give a shit about celebrities for the most part. So I don't care, but except for Del Toro, that's the only one at any of those events that I was like, he's right there. Oh my gosh.
Guillermo or Benicio?
Oh, Guillermo. Which either would be cool, to be honest, but it's...
I once knocked him over. That's my claim to fame.
Toro?
I feel terrible about it to this day. Yeah, I was at Comic-Con and I rounded a corner and barged into him. He didn't fall over, but he definitely received a barge.
I could see that happening.
Terrible about that.
The event that we went to, that he was at, we were like sitting at opposite tables, and he was heckling. He's just all out yelling at people. It was incredible. Yeah, big fan. But the games industry, I feel like there was like some networking that happened this week to me a little. Obviously, I didn't go out very much. But I would say people were really polite for the most part. There was a guy who I like have some regret because I was accidentally rude to, who said, "Can we connect on LinkedIn?" And I laughed. I went, no. And then he was like, oh, why? And I was like, I don't use LinkedIn. And he was like, really? And I was like, fuck no. But that was not his fault. He was very nice. But LinkedIn, it's not going to happen for me, my friend.
No.
You will not catch me there.
I've laughed at people when they ask me for a business card. Because it's 2024. What are you doing?
Yeah, also true. Yeah. I don't think that business cards are really... So, like, okay, that's a good question then. For people who are going to these events to network, which I'm sure a lot of people did at GDC, sure. I don't do business cards anymore. I haven't since I was at IGN, which is kind of important as a journalist, to be honest. And since then, what do I need for? I would say, here's my email address, or let's connect on Twitter, or let's connect on Instagram. What is your suggestion for people who are, like, trying to follow up with someone they've met?
I do Twitter. Honestly, like, me and you are being judgmental, but there are 100% people who would have a business card or be on LinkedIn. But I would, as with a lot of things, follow the dance of the other person. Like, if they're ask them how the best way to connect is, and follow their lead. Would be my approach. Because some people, not LinkedIn, obviously. That I would laugh in their face and run away.
I did by accident. And I'm very sorry. You were so nice. I just.
Probably watching this, probably heartbroken.
I don't know if this
I did at GDC. I met a couple of fans of the show. I embarrassed myself in front of one fan of the show.
Great.
That was funny.
Great.
I did something embarrassing. I'm not going to say what, but like just a general faux pas that you would hope, like, oh, in public it's like, oh, this is embarrassing, and then move on. And then as I was walking away, I heard him whisper to his buddy, "I'm a big fan of that guy." He does a podcast. It's really good.
Right.
And I was like, oh no, this is
Right.
actually. So if you're watching this and you saw what you saw, that's
Did you
embarrassing
fart in
for me,
public?
and
That's what it sounds like.
I didn't. I did realize as I was halfway through. No, I just accidentally I tripped over.
Oh.
But I did realize as I was giving the context that 100% sounds like I farted.
It very
in public,
much
so
sounded like you farted in public.
That sounds like I was dancing around. No, I just kind of tripped over, leaning on something.
That's
so,
fine. I think you're allowed to trip.
I know, but the British threshold for embarrassment is much lower.
True. Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, I also met some Play, Watch, Listen fans, which is always very cool. I'm yet to see
Good
somebody
people.
in the wild wearing this shirt, and I think when that happens, I'll lose my mind. Because I haven't seen that. But I have, like, when I had people in person with my boxing merch, that was like, you bought that? That's crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's very cool. It always just feels so nice. So, yes, very nice to see Play, Watch, Listen fans out there. The thing I was going to say about LinkedIn, so, like, I'm sure you know this, but I don't know if everybody knows this. Women just get hit on LinkedIn. That's why I'm like hard against it.
Is that right?
You'll just if I show you my LinkedIn messages, maybe I do a video about it, but it because it's so funny to me that they're doing it on a professional platform. You're just
that can't have a high success rate. That's
I wouldn't have thought so, but I guess they assume that it will be seen more maybe than other social networks because there's less interaction overall. But yeah, people just hit on you on LinkedIn. Like, that's like...
Just don't hit on people in professional environments, whether it's a website or an event, or just don't hit on people in a work situation.
Yeah.
Just a general rule.
Great rule.
Hey, audience. Yeah, good rule.
None of our audience would do that.
No, our audience is awesome.
Great people.
Yeah.
But
good people.
For the other people you know, tell them, don't do that.
Tell them, yeah.
And it's the reason that I don't use LinkedIn. Mostly,
that's
it's
wild.
Also,
more so than you get people trying to jump into your DMs in like Instagram, Twitter, those kind of spaces.
Well,
or is it harder to filter and block?
I mean,
that
so Twitter, my DMs are closed, so that's just people I know. So
that doesn't happen.
Chill.
Yeah, okay.
Look, Instagram, I don't know. I get like 100 messages a day, but they're mostly people just responding to things I've posted. Sure, plenty of those people hit on me, but like, I don't even think that's a faux pas on Instagram. Frankly, if you want to shoot your shot on Instagram, that's fine. Go for it.
That's just walking up to someone at a bar. That's fine.
Totally.
This is walking up to someone at a bar, at a conference at work. Yeah.
And so it's like doing it on LinkedIn, the vibe's off. You can't, not there.
Yeah,
and it's also just
not that puts people off at GDC. Like the number of horror stories of people like, well, on the best possible side flirting, on the worst possible side, like again, someone this year got
really,
which is
Jesus Christ.
It happens every year, and we need to solve that. It's fucked up. Everyone was fine apparently, but still, like, just a horrible situation.
I mean, that in principle is.
It happened to a mate of mine when we were out. I had to carry a friend home.
It's so disgusting. It's just so fucking disgusting that anyone would do that. There is a nail polish that I've used before. Again, I don't really drink anymore, and it's easier to guard your drinks when you're not drinking. I think probably when you are drunk, it's easy to forget about it, right? There's a nail polish that you can get that I have used, and it does work. Well, I guess I haven't tried it in the roofie drinks, to be fair, so allegedly it works. But
it's like color change.
Yes, you dip it in and it'll change colors depending on if your drink is drugged. And it's not even that expensive. I highly recommend it. Like, you're going anywhere, why not use it? And you can get it clear too. So like if I have the nails that I have now, it would go over the top and not ruin the way my nails look. And then you dip it in and it changes color, and it will change back as soon as you're not in contact with it. So a terrible thing to have to do. Check it out. I also just like, again, what are we just giving advice here for things that I assume most people already know? If your friend goes to the bathroom, just look after their drinks. And when they ask you to look after their drinks, fucking look after them. Like that's when people go for it a lot of the time. Like you really got to be careful and just look after people.
And if a friend tells you they need to leave, you listen to them and immediately support them in doing that. Yeah.
Totally.
That's the other one.
Yeah. But again, virtually all of every interaction I had at GDC was really positive. Always so cool to talk to students, which, like, as I'm getting further in my career, I'm starting to get people be like, I was watching you when I was a teenager. And I like it. It doesn't make me feel old. I find it really sweet. And I'm like, and you're a full-grown adult now, and you're still saying hi. That's cool. Like, I don't know. It's something I find really nice about it.
It's when you're in a work context and someone says they were a massive fan of you as a kid. That's the stage. You're not there yet.
I have done that though, because whenever I talk about how old I was when I played the first God of War, everyone goes, "Oh." They'll be
everyone
like,
around you just dying.
Pretty much. They'll be like, "Is that
right
allowed?"
Yeah.
Oh God. Like, yeah. That's certainly a one that comes.
Being on the other side of that is horrific.
Well, yeah, because I've also had like so many people at SMS have worked on so many fucking good games, and I'll go, "Oh, dude, I love that game. I played the shit out of that."
You're surrounded by heroes. You're surrounded by legends of the industry.
Yeah, like almost everyone that I work with. Oh, hello, Benjo. Has worked on something I love just statistically by the level of experience at the studio, which is very, very, very cool. But it happens all the time. Like, I fucking love that game, dude. That's crazy. I did on stage when giving the award to Hi-Fi Rush, which I feel is very underrated. Underrated, maybe not the right word.
I still gotta play it. It's so me.
I really love it, and I love that it came from the studio that it came from. It's so different for them. It's so stylish. It's so unique. Like, I'm such a big fan. It's now on PlayStation as well. It was just on Xbox previously, but it's on Game Pass. So, do you have an Xbox?
I'll play. It's
free. Also on PC, obviously, but or at least I think it is. I assume it is. I gave him the award for audio, and I was like, I fucking love your game. They got to sit next to him in person, which is still cool for me too, right? It's like just definitely a cool part of GDC at all is definitely being around people who've made awesome stuff and getting to talk to people.
That's the crazy part. Like, that's genuinely that's something I was thinking about the other day. Is just, it's so cool to work in. So it's such a privilege to work in an industry which you're a fan of the product of that industry. The fact that you do get to be friends, or at least like have conversations with people who are responsible for everything you love. That's insane. That's ridiculous.
Very
Most
accessible.
people do not work in a medium. And then what's very cool,
Raul's not talking to Scorsese twice a year at DICE. Like that, it doesn't. We're very accessible still in a way that I think is really nice.
We're very accessible, but I think also just like that's even happened to me with some of the film stuff, like getting to like interact with and talk to folks at Disney and stuff who are responsible for things I've loved over the years. Like it's incredibly, if you're a nerd and you want to, and I'm sure there's lots of people, I'm sure the majority of people consume entertainment and wouldn't want to necessarily meet or talk to the people who made it. It's not for them. It's they're there to be entertained. It doesn't matter. But to be a nerd who wants to, and to be in a position where you can, is just, we're so lucky. It's ridiculous.
It's very, very cool. And like, so people are so open, like obviously outside of NDAs are so open to having these conversations. Austin is at PAX, so unavailable today. Because PAX came right after GDC this year, so like half the people had to leave halfway through, which they do sometimes. I've had to do that trip before. It sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks. I'm so glad. I'm so glad I'm not promoting anything right now, and I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
There's also the years where DICE and GDC are very close together. That's also a pain. Usually not as close, not literally week to week.
DICE is like basically always around Valentine's Day, right?
It is, but then GDC is often a bit earlier, so they start getting to orbit of each other a little bit.
Yeah. They did announce that PAX East is moved to be a little bit later. Which
such a better point in the year.
Totally.
It's May, right?
Yes, it's going to be in May. I like it. So Boston in March sucks a bit, but it's also like I've had multiple times where I was grounded trying to get out because of snowstorms or whatever. And it is also just like the snow starting to melt, so it's just like kind of dirty, and I really like Boston. Not always great every year, sometimes it is, but I think moving further into June, especially when we don't have E3, is probably a really great way, especially for people from Europe, to come and actually have people play their games closer to when you would expect. So I think that's a really good idea.
It's a much better point in the year.
Yeah.
It fits like, you know, when you're, I don't know if people, I assume people know this, but like, basically, like, there's always a plan, obviously, of months and months and months in advance. Like, when you announce a game, you know the exact arc of how you're going to be, where you're going to be showing it, how blah, blah, blah. And, like, yeah, PAX East has always been kind of a weird point in the year for that, because it's a bit late for kind of your winter. Well, it's obviously too late for your winter releases, but it's too early for kind of, even for summer stuff. It's still just a bit further up. So yeah, it going into May is gonna basically be a tone setter going into the summer.
Yeah.
Of kind of promotion.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a much better place for that, I think.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and also just from a cycles of dev point of view, like February, March is not so much about promotion. That's why GDC and DICE are there, is because we're all basically either we've just released something or we're not ready to talk about the next thing yet.
Yep.
So it's the perfect time to go and do some business, learn some stuff, do all of the kind of it's a rest period. It's kind of a zone where you can do that stuff. So yeah, PAX East never made sense to me from that perspective. I get why they wanted to put some space between it and other PAXs just so they use for the culture. But like,
there are only really two public PAXs now. Well, there's Oz, which is in October, and then West, which is in September. West. So you've got like the whole fucking year.
Yeah, you've got room to squeeze it together. But I think that was the idea originally, was they were at separate points of the year.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know West and Australia were so close together.
Very different markets, though, I think. Which related, we've had a standing offer for us for the Play Watch Listen crew specifically to go to PAX Oz. That we can.
I would love to at some point.
That we can just request any time. That I think I mentioned to you guys. And we were like, no one's ever gonna be able to do that, but maybe if we start planning now, then we could go. It's
an organizational thing. Yeah, we'll talk off air.
Yeah, it's a business. For me, it's like definitely. Meeting.
It's definitely like we'll add it to the minutes for the bi-monthly meeting we do.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, no, absolutely, I'm up for that 100%. The thing for me is when I do finally go to Australia, which I've always wanted to do, I need to. It's 3 weeks, so I want to go to New Zealand. I want to do the whole. Yeah,
it's a beautiful country.
Do the Lord of the Rings tour.
You should. It's amazing. I did it when I was a kid, and it is incredible. New Zealand's like one of the most beautiful places on the planet. It's fucking crazy. So I have to actually go pretty soon, so it's gonna be a short episode, but I found some very exciting Mike Bithell lore that maybe has been mentioned, I don't know, during GDC. You worked on iCarly. You worked on iCarly.
I did. In the current context, I want to say I was very far away from.
I don't care.
I was never
the fact that I don't care. Don't downplay it.
I didn't know any of the players.
The sentence
I wasn't involved.
That you worked on iCarly is factually accurate, and that's all that matters to me. I don't care in what capacity. What?
Okay. I worked on a game, so we did and I think it's a meme in Brazil as well, this game. So it was for the Wii. It was like I think it was like the second or third game I worked on professionally. I think it was the second one. So I worked on a game called Tack, which was like a mascot platformer. And then the next thing I worked on was iCarly. So yeah, it's actually kind of ahead of its time, weirdly, like the show was based on. So it was basically like, it was a mini game collection, but the meta narrative of it was that you were building a YouTube channel by doing like little mini games and skits, like the characters on the show. But yeah, you're about to tell me you loved iCarly as a kid, right? And just destroy me. No, you're a bit too,
old for iCarly, right? Or at least I was never really.
That makes me feel okay.
I was maybe never into that kind of the American Disney kids content actually just never appealed to me as a kid. I was very into anime. I was a cultured child.
You weren't like other kids.
I wasn't like the
cool
other kids.
Stuff.
Yeah, I just watched Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, really, and Dragon Ball more than anything. If it had real people in it, I didn't want it, which is honestly apparently not that uncommon for autistic children. That Disney, the Disney kids just didn't do it for me. It's like, if it's not animated, I don't want it. And so I just watched all
just to save us 50 comments. iCarly was Nickelodeon rather than Disney, but same.
The vibe. In this I actually didn't know that, but the vibe.
Yeah, it's the energy of it.
Yeah, the hyperactive sort of children thing. So no.
Yeah, that was a fun gig. I learned a lot. It was that era where I was working on a lot of I worked at a company called Blitz Games, who are best known actually from a Danny documentary, which I kind of helped introduce some people for that on. They did the Burger King games. I came in just after the Burger King games shipped, and I was on. So a bunch of kind of that era of kind of shovelware is the ungenerous
that was where you first worked, right? Was at Blitz Games, and that's like the starting point for like a lot of devs in the UK, isn't it? Like a lot of people worked there.
Oh, they had an absolutely incredible kind of junior onboarding process. So so there's lots of people in the British games industry, and to be honest, in the industry worldwide, who came in. That was their first job because they recruited out of universities and schools because they basically just made a lot of games essentially, and they just need a bunch of junior designers, especially to shovelware. Throw it in. Exactly. You're not like the iCarly game does not need world-class level design. It needs Mike Bithell who can press
Brazil disagrees.
Hopefully it'll be fine. So it is a meme in Brazil, the game, and there was a brief I experienced like Brazilian fame for like 2 days when someone worked out that I was on the credits list for it.
I call it
Because there
game
it is a
Brazil.
cult game over in Brazil.
Wow, yeah, it is. I
Um,
googled it and it's like already. Wow,
it's a whole thing. It's a whole
wow,
thing.
that is
I
a
have
whole
no
thing.
idea of the context. I don't know why. Maybe I don't know what it was, but they for some reason that game clicked over there.
Wow.
But yeah, no, it was a fun. It was that was the thing, and that's something that weirdly has come up in lots of conversations recently. Is we as an industry are not as good as onboarding
I was
juniors
gonna
as we
say,
used to
who
be. It
would
used to
replace
be
that
that there
now?
were yeah, they used to. Well, weirdly, I think a lot of mobile game companies have kind of stepped into that role because again, they just make so many games that they can. But if you're a mobile game designer and you want to work on AAA games, then that's a very hard journey for you to go on. That's a very
Yeah,
hard thing to convince a recruiter of. So I don't know
I
if we have the same track as we used to.
I got a junior role when I was first hired, and like if you want to talk about luck, I think that luck certainly exists, hard work certainly exists, but I was so lucky there in that the timing was right for me, and that I had been working on other games and done game jams very quietly while I was at Rooster Teeth because this is what I wanted to do. But like
Hmm.
to get to a AAA studio, they're so uncommon. Those jobs come every now and then, but they're really, really rare. Like a junior writer position at a AAA studio is so rare. Um,
You just
any
can't.
junior.
It's those steps up don't fit. Like the pipeline. I mean, I mean, Dell did the literal pipeline of like 3D artist at Blitz, then goes to Rocksteady, then to Naughty Dog. Like that's the
Yeah,
trajectory basically of you
it's
have to kind of
Blitz,
you have to
double A-ish. I mean, it's still AAA, but and
exactly.
then
You could
Sony
kind of
first party.
do
Naughty Dog, the
yeah,
most
and
expensive games
then
ever made. Like you just,
but that's yeah, you need because for a recruiter as well, like and this is the other thing with recruiters is you're trying to solve a problem for them. So they need to be able to look at what you have in your portfolio and go, oh, you theoretically can do this. And yeah, the jump from you need something in there that they can kind of hang their hat on. So even I bet with you, I bet as you say, very lucky of course, but like also the fact that you had those game jam games, that's probably what put you over the edge, that you had something they could cling to. For me it was
I
I
had
was doing some
the industry knowledge
sorry,
was the thing that they cared about. So
right.
like we have a lot of there are a lot of people who work in game dev who don't play as many games as I do. That's the thing I have with this podcast where I'd love to
I
talk
don't
to
play
you
as
and
many
Austin
games as
about
you
video
do.
games. You don't fucking play video games anymore.
No,
um
me and Austin, yeah, you
it's
are one
tough.
hundred percent playing more games
Yeah,
than
and I
with
think
us.
that
Yeah,
that
one
was
hundred percent.
and I always have, even when I was at IGN, I felt like I played more video games than majority of the people on camera. I just like playing video games, right? So
Sure.
that was a thing that they gave me credit, and I have zero doubt that I play more video games than any of the people in my writers' rooms, like probably by a long shot.
Yeah,
Our lead also plays a fair amount of video games, but for the most part, that helped a lot, and it was industry knowledge and one other thing that I can't talk about. So
you're the gamer's gamer. You
I'm
know,
truly the
you're
gamers
out
gamer.
there inserting gamer wisdom into the games you work on. It's
Exactly.
important. Yeah, you're fighting for the gamers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to. I put you in a bad position. I apologize for it. But yeah, no, I think it's interesting the journey, the paths in, and how they've opened and closed.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was definitely. I was so lucky when I entered the industry. I entered the industry during the massive brain drain of Canadian development. That basically when the Canadian tax breaks came in, and they just hired up all of the top tier British industry, which left so many jobs
No
available for
way.
chancers
Didn't
like
know that
me
was
to
a
kind
thing.
of get in. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, there was. I remember my first. I will always remember. I was again talking to someone else about this the other day because they remembered the same thing. My first day on the job, there was an industry magazine called, and there still is in a new form, MCV Develop magazine. It was like the corporate magazine that was like in the waiting room, the lobby of every games company in the world,
Yep.
or at least in UK and Europe. And then the cover was a picture of a door, and it was like, "Could the last game developer to leave the country please turn the lights off?"
Oh,
That was my first day on the job. I saw that like
wow.
magazine. I was like, oh, "Okay,
But yeah, that
I'm
meant you had a
entering
hiring
during a
boom.
moment." You know. Well, exactly. Yeah, there was so many opportunities for like, "Oh, you know how to turn a computer on? Yeah, sure. Come work in the games
No
industry."
way.
Like that
Wow.
was, yeah. So I was very lucky
That's
to get
also
the foot in
lucky.
the door.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely different kinds of luck lead to careers. Who'd have thought? But yeah, I don't know that
I think we've
like
been very wise on this one. It's very
honestly,
we're
what
putting
a
dropping a lot of wisdom on this
blessing to
podcast.
our audience. Like how
they're lucky to have us.
How great
they're lucky to have
that
us.
we provide such wisdom to them in an accessible way. Like honestly, where would you be without us? Don't hit on people on LinkedIn. Watch your friends' drinks.
Yeah.
Business cards.
I think basically you could learn everything you need to have a successful career just based on this episode of podcast.
Yeah.
This is basically as good as GDC.
Game jams. Honestly, though, that is pretty good advice. Game jams.
That is pretty good advice.
Do game jams.
Pretty solid advice.
Anything you can, even if they need just like someone to do spreadsheets. Do game jams. It really helped me so much. Just like to learn how to apply writing to video games is such a different thing to many other kinds of writing. It's like, how can I help level design and art, and how do these things work together in a cohesive way? And game jams. See, what else do you need? Yeah, I think we've replaced the whole of GDC. Every talk has been summed up in this 42 minutes. Go us.
Just goals.
Yeah,
we're great. We've done a really good job. I just think the audience should be very grateful for us.
I don't know what we're doing today.
I don't know
Mike's
what we're
on
doing.
holiday.
It's because we're in the same time zone. That's what it is.
Yeah, the vibe's different.
I'm not my usual slightly tired self for this call.
Yeah, I know you're vibrant, thriving.
38 years on this earth, I've never been described as vibrant before.
You're kind of a vibrant guy. You could be a little vibrant.
Am I?
Yeah.
Vibrant
well, you're very.
Okay,
I think you're very smiley. You smile a lot.
I do smile a lot. That's true. Mainly nervousness, mainly fear.
Irrelevant. Who asked? Doesn't matter. I don't care why.
A vibrant person would clarify. A vibrant person would allow.
That's not very vibrant of you. So we have already recorded. This is episode 149. We did already record at GDC episode 150. I don't know how the audio is going to go. I think it'll work. If not, that'll be a Patreon exclusive, unfortunately. But I do think it will work based on the tinkering that I have done. So nice. We're now officially this podcast comes out every 2 weeks. We've been consistent, and I'm very happy with us for that. So that will be in 2 weeks from this episode being up. And then in another 2 weeks, we'll have episode 151, which, because we've mentioned Dell and spoken about art, why don't we ask Dell, who is an artist, to come on the show? We've had a few separate devs that we want to have. Zalavia as well. A few separate people that I've reached out to and asked if they'd want to be a part of it.
He's busy winning every single award available,
and just being such a cool
right
guy.
Does he have time for us? I don't know.
He's so cool.
I don't know. Maybe he can come hang out on the way to his next award ceremony or something.
Yeah, we'll see
we'll
just ask.
I'm not jealous of the new
just
guy.
20
I'm
minutes.
Not jealous.
Just 20 minutes.
Yeah,
you don't have to spare all your time. It's just a tiny bit of time would be cool. So we'll ask if he can hang out. But speaking of that, because we haven't had an artist on the show, if you have questions for Dell, it's easier for me to take them on Patreon. It's easy for me to keep track of, but you can leave them in the YouTube comments as well. And if there is something that stands out, pass it on. And we could talk about video game art and how that works. That would be cool.
Just pixels.
Yeah, never mind, actually. It's just pixels in it.
Don't bother with it.
Yeah, waste of time.
We could explain art better than Del.
You know what? I think we can explain music better than Austin can, too. And acting better than Troy.
I honestly think if I wasn't here, you've got the direction and design covered. You could basically do the show without us. This is...
Yeah, I mean, I can do design. I can do writing. I can do... Yeah, I'll be fine.
We're a double up, if anything. You don't need me.
We do make each other sort of relevant. Yeah.
Yeah. All
right, going forward, Play, Watch, Listen is me making up things about programming, composition, and art. I'll have to see what that episode comes out like. All right, I have to head back to work. Sorry, it's a shorter episode, everybody, but 150, if it works out, was an hour and a half and in person. And
it was an epic.
And one Troy Baker joins us, so stay tuned for that in 2 weeks.
I went and found him in the streets of San Francisco.
Doing this fucking show, you son of a bitch.
You're doing the show.
All right, I'm Alanah Pearce. I'm a video game writer. That is Mike Bithell. He's a video game director. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.